It's time for Windows Weekly. I'm back, baby. So are Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. We're going to talk about Windows Blue, Windows 8, 40 million copies, and what's happening with my Windows Phone update. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 288, recorded November 29th, 2012. Scroogled! Windows Weekly is brought to you by RingCentral. I love my cloud-based phone system from RingCentral. Zero startup cost, and RingCentral is just $20 per month per user. Try it now with a 30-day risk-free trial. And when you buy one desk phone, you'll get a second phone free, up to 20 phones. Call 800-543-9980 or visit ringcentral.com and use the promo code TWIT. And by the new Squarespace. Squarespace introduces a new content management system, making it faster and easier to create a high-quality website, blog, or online portfolio. Plus, more than 50 new features, including mobile responsive design. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code WINDOWS11. And by Ford, featuring lane keeping and adaptive cruise control technology, both designed to improve the overall driving experience. Check out these available systems on the 2013 Ford Fusion and learn more at ford.com/technology. Hey, boys and girls, you ever wonder, how could I get the latest information about what's going on in the world of Microsoft? Where can I find out all about Windows Surface, all about Windows 8, all about Internet Explorer 10, all about Steven Sinofsky? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you found it. You found the place. Windows Weekly, featuring the stellar Paul Thurrott of the super site for Windows, winsupersite.com. And
so washed out.
Washed out? Not washed up.
No, not yet.
There is a difference. And
just waiting for that tsunami to take me away.
And the lovable Mary Jo Foley from allaboutmicrosoft.com. Dr. Pizza has joined us. Apparently, we were talking about his tweets. So Peter Bright is in the chat room.
Nice.
Which means that he'll be swearing at us from the chat room any moment now.
That's how I think of him actually regularly, just kind of disgruntled and hurling insults.
Disgruntled. So we were talking about it before the show because I didn't want to bore everybody. Everybody's listening to Windows Weekly. And by the way, thanks to, was it Ayaz Tom Merritt who took over for me? While I was
who can remember?
Some guy. Ayaz Akhtar, thank you so much for, they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't even know.
That guy.
We're basically interchangeable.
I think he had facial hair, right?
Facial hair, yes. Ayaz Akhtar, thank you for filling in. And I'm sure you and Ayaz talked about the Sinofsky story.
I don't remember. Was it a big? I don't know.
I'm on a ship and I'm reading and I'm going. My jaw dropped. I was stunned and I thought, gosh, of all weeks to not be here for Windows Weekly, this is the one I'd really like to hear Mary Jo.
But then, did you then almost drive that boat into a tree? Because that's what happened to me. Actually, it was a telephone pole.
Did you really? I mean, did you? I mean, I know you say that, but actually?
Oh no, I mean that literally.
You swerved.
Well, she scared the hell out of me. I thought something horrible was happening to her. Like she just randomly dialed some number.
Oh, so Mary Jo's. It was not the news. It was Mary Jo's screaming that was.
Yeah.
I was jumping up and down, and he thought I was being attacked, but I wasn't.
Well, Mary Jo, what did it sound like? Can you give us? Because I want to know. I mean, I'm just trying to get an idea. What did that sound like? Give us a little, just a taste of what that sounded like.
I called him and I said, Paul, where are you? And he's like, I'm driving. And I said, oh my God, you're not going to believe what just happened. This is unbelievable. Are you sure you're ready for this? And he's like, hold on, I have to pull my car over.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. And then I started doing jumping jacks and running around the living room a little.
Well, okay. And what was your why Mary Jo? What was it that made that such a stunning story?
Well, it was a surprise. Number one, it was a total surprise.
Yeah.
Number two, as I've said on Windows Weekly a few times, the Windows team has kind of put me on a shelf for the past few years, and I hope now there may be a thawing of the Cold War.
Oh, you think it was Stephen? And you too, Paul. Not a lot of love lost.
We have our stories. I think the way I would say it, just to condense it down, is the experience that Mary Jo and I have had were those experiences were consistent with what other people have experienced with him, both inside of Windows, inside of Microsoft, and outside of Microsoft.
A certain arrogance,
certain childishness. I'm not sure what to call it, but
petulance.
Yeah, I guess the way I would boil it down for me personally is that there is an overemphasis on the things they don't like. So if I'm critical of something that Microsoft does, do not like that. And a willful ignorance of the 50-plus articles that are helping people use your products that occurred between the last time I was critical and the current time that I'm critical, that they never, not that I would ever expect anyone to contact me and say, Paul, that was a great write-up you did helping our users understand Windows 8. Like, I would never expect that, of course. But on the flip side, I also don't expect the call when they say, you might want to watch the criticism because you're going to be out at the next, event. We're going to have no justification to invite you to the next event or whatever if you keep writing stuff like this, as if what I'm writing is insane, when in fact what I'm writing is in defense of their users and explaining how Microsoft isn't necessarily doing the right thing by them. And that's the way that kids react to each other. It's not the way adults treat each other. Yeah. And I just, there's a lot more to it than that, but it's pretty clear that my experience, Mary Jo's experience, is consistent.
To be fair, this is a common thing in technology. The fraught relationship between technology companies and technology press, particularly bloggers, is always of a little bit of a
well. And I should also mention, because I haven't said this bit of it. I have a really good relationship with different people at Microsoft and different people who work for their PR kind of outside of Microsoft. Different teams treat you completely differently. A lot of people really get it. Anyone normal, I would say, should understand that I'm not part of the Microsoft PR infrastructure, and that, hopefully look at that objectively. You could say, well, I may not always agree with what you write, but you're clearly coming from the right place. And, since you wrote this thing that's critical, maybe we should have a discussion about it. And without discussing that in too much detail, I will say that I had a conversation like that recently with another part of Windows, and it was exactly the way it should have been. It's the way those things should go. So,
yeah. Well,
it's the way it used to always be. I mean, I don't understand why it would be any other way, but hopefully these things do improve. So we'll see.
All right. I know you already talked about this, and just because I wasn't here doesn't mean everybody else wasn't here. So I just thought I'd bring that. I mentioned it just in passing. Yeah. And I did want to hear,
it was the event of the year. I mean,
it was. And I did want to hear Mary Jo's impression.
Yeah.
Of the sound that almost drove Paul into a tree.
The person who told me from Microsoft actually called me back the next day and said, I wanted to make sure you were still okay, because when I called you yesterday, you just started screaming into the phone. And
that's funny.
I just wanted to make sure you were all right.
Yeah, it was fun. It was funny. It was actually really funny.
Well, I'm glad everybody's alive.
We're all alive.
Have we heard from Stephen?
He's been tweeting.
Really?
I guess he was in Africa for a while, in a couple different places. And somebody yesterday posted a picture of him supposedly in California. So he's around.
I'm sure it's hard not to welcome, I'm sure, after there's probably mixed feelings. But he was at Microsoft, 23 years? Long time. I'm sure he's got plenty
Windows,
of money. So
about six plus years at Windows.
Unlike most of us, when we lose our jobs, he's not going to be on the streets. He's not be taking unemployment.
No, that's the thing I keep trying to remind people. It's like the Wicked Witch is dead or whatever. It's like, no, the Wicked Witch is worth about $100 million. I think he's going to be just fine.
I'm sure he's already gotten many, many calls from headhunters, because many a company would love him as a CEO, right? I mean, that's the next step for him, and some company's going to hire him as a CEO for sure. So the only thing is maybe the bittersweet feeling of wanting to shepherd Windows 8 into manhood.
I think we could all use some maturity around the Windows thing, so it's probably best for
maybe. Well, that's just, I always say this. Jennifer was great for raising the kids when they were young, but there comes a time when a child needs a man.
Wow.
And there comes a time when Windows 8 needs the influence
I'll
of an
throw
adult.
that theory by my wife and see what she has to say about that.
You wait and see. When your kids are 18,
I'm
she's
sure
going
my
to
wife's reaction to that would be,
Thumbs
having
up.
been married to you for so many years, I can assure you're right.
thumbs up.
Your kids need a man.
They're going to say, she's going to say, yes, Paul.
That's exactly what they need. Let me know when he shows up.
Oh, ow. That's funny. That's what Jennifer said, too. So. Okay,
And
so
you know,
moving.
now the two people who are running Windows are women. You know.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Now, you've talked about this, or have you? Have you talked about his
we
replacement?
talked about
You know, not necessarily that aspect of it. I think that's very notable, and I think that's a positive development, actually.
These two are
I have
good.
to
You like
say-
them?
They both worked under Sinofsky on, I think, both Windows 7 and also on Windows 8. One of them is Tammy Reller, who's the CFO and the Chief Marketing Officer now for Windows, and then Julie Larson-Green, who is now the head of Windows engineering and also hardware engineering. So they both have worked with them for a long time. And, you know, I have to say, point for Steven Sinofsky here, he has promoted women pretty high up in the ranks in Windows. And that's really different because in the past, Windows was not a place where there were a lot of women in management roles.
Do you think it's their interim, though? I mean, or is this permanent?
They're both there permanently, I'd say, but neither of them got the title of president of the Windows division. So we don't know who, if anyone, is going to become the president of the division.
Probably a guy.
And I don't know if do we not have this in the show notes? I mean, there are some rumors that there could be some kind of a shakeup coming in the sense that Microsoft might be reorganized into a very different way, in keeping with this integration talk they've been saying lately, that maybe
That's
this will be something that will promote cross-group integration.
Well, to extend the Apple analogy, the Scott Forstall analogy, that was the whole point, right? Was not merely getting rid of somebody, but realigning how the management structure worked. And Microsoft's done that before, I know.
You know what? It's weird. Windows 8 is often compared to Windows Vista, and I try to downplay that discussion because I don't feel it's fair in some ways. But the funny thing is, you can actually make many cases for how Windows 8 is like Windows Vista. And one of the ways that it's like Windows Vista is that it's not complete. You know, that Windows 7, you might argue, what is the version of Windows Vista they kind of wish they could have shipped 3 years earlier. And it is the one that got Windows Vista right. Windows 8 really does need that release because there are all these missing bits, you know, where they have all the high-level stuff in place. And you know, I think there are people who misunderstand the possibilities that can happen going forward. You know, this new app platform is very deep and well thought out. It's just not complete, you know, and I think that the Windows 8 needs its version of Windows 7, you know, that next release, whether it's this update coming next year or Windows 9 or whatever you want to call it, that just completes the story. And hopefully that's what they focus on, because finishing the job is a very important thing that Microsoft never gets right. Or I should say rarely gets right, certainly never on the first try. And that's really what it needs. And in that way, it is sort of like Windows Vista.
Yeah. Interesting point of view. We're going to take a break. When we come back, you probably saw Gene Munster. You know, I guess Piper Jaffray does this every year with the Apple Store. They went into the Apple Store and they taped a day and they saw how many iPads are sold and so forth. And then apparently they decided to spend a couple hours across the way at the Microsoft Store. And the headline, and I'm going to let you correct this, was that 15 iPads are sold in an hour and at the Apple Store, and 0 Surface RTs tablets are sold at the Microsoft Store per hour. But let's talk about it. Fact, fiction, and everything in between. The Surface, which I'm holding right here in just a second. Now, I'm using this right now. This is how I'm following the show notes in Notes MX. Or they don't call it that anymore, but you know. The Metro Notes. OneNote. But first, let's say hello to our phone. Hello, phone. Our great phone system from Ring Central. I'm a big fan of Ring Central. I had never heard of them when we moved into the brick house. I didn't really think about, because in the cottage I made the Scrooge that I am. I scroogled them. I made the staff use their cell phones for phones. So, well, you got a phone, use it. But I guess as you get bigger and you're like a real business and you have 25 employees, you can't really do that. They rebel. Next will be a union. I don't know. So I thought I better get a phone system so that they can, have a phone on their desk. And you know what? I credit Russell Tammany, our our consulting engineer, who is the best. I mean, this guy is great. I've tried to hire him, but he makes too much money as a consulting engineer. But he said, I've installed Ring Central and a bunch of client installations. I'm liking it. It is a cloud-based system. There's no PBX, and yet we can really control what we do. And we did it, and I'm so happy. A year and a half in, we love. Let me just reach over and get my phone. This looks just like a desk phone that you would have, in an office. It's a Polycom. We have a conference Polycom in the conference room. I mean, this is multiple lines, all the features you want. I got a Do Not Disturb button, my most used button. Yeah, would you like to dial a number, Paul? Paul's reaching over to my Polycom. But what's cool about this is, and it plugs into the wall, it plugs into the phone jack, but it's not a PBX in the basement. It's not AT&T. It's Ring Central. It's a cloud-based phone system. If you are thinking, if you're in the same position I am, that maybe it's time for a new phone system, or you're building a new facility and it's time to look at phone systems, this is absolutely, I could say unequivocally, the way to go, especially for distributed offices. And any time that you want to be a little more modern, Ring Central is fantastic. There's no setup fee. It's as little as $20 per employee per month per user. We have all these great features. There's, for instance, I'll give you a couple of them. You get, of course, voicemail in your email, and fax messages come right to the email or to your smartphone. But also calls can come to any phone. You designate the phones. You can also, there's an app for the iPhone and the Android phone. When you make a call from the app, it looks like you're calling from the office. The return call comes to the office number, and so it allows you to use your cell phone. It gives you that flexibility. We pay for the call, but you can use your cell phone if you're on the road or at home. So the sales team loves it. Chad loves it. It's a great way. He can call, book people and still always be available. Really a nice setup. I just want you to try it free for 30 days. If you go to ringcentral.com, and when you buy one phone, you'll get the second phone free, up to 20 phones. So this is a very special deal just for TWIT listeners, for Windows Weekly folks. Visit ringcentral.com, use the promo code TWIT, or call 800-543-9980. 800-543-9980. We use it. We bought it, and then we were so happy with it. They said, "Well, maybe you should do some ads for it." And I said, "Yes, gladly. I really like it." Ringcentral.com. Don't forget to use the offer code TWIT, or call 800-543-9980. So on Before You Buy, I gave a recommendation to buy on the Surface RT. I kind of. But after using it, I did take it on the cruise. After using it a while, it is. It strikes me. It's not exactly a perfect tablet. It really wants to be more of a laptop than a tablet. And but when you so you have to buy I don't think you should buy it without the keyboard. You guys agree?
Yes.
I think you got
Yes.
and I say get the Type keyboard, because why not? It's $10 more, the one with real keys.
I like them both. I mean, I think for people who don't type a lot, the touch keyboard is a little thinner, a little lighter. It works. I mean, the iPad taught us that you can type on glass and it actually works. And it's like that, except it doesn't cover the screen.
Right.
It's not terrible.
The screen resolution, a little low compared to comparable devices, but I think Microsoft, because they use ClearType and so forth, it looks good. I'll tell you, my only big complaint about it is, I think, and boy, this is the opposite of what I thought before I used it. Maybe Microsoft should have left desktop out.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I think that, yeah, I do. And I think the reason they didn't is because they couldn't.
They couldn't. Microsoft's always been hobbled by legacy, the need to support legacy.
This is that Vista 7 thing again, right? It's one of the areas where it's just not ready, and that maybe for that next release it will be. And then the RT version won't have a desktop, perhaps.
Although it does make it a value, because you get Office in this, and Office is a desktop.
But that's another example of something that maybe wasn't ready, right? That maybe Office 16 will come in a Metro version.
Right.
Maybe. I'm not speculating, of course, but
yeah. So how is the Surface doing? I think that Gene Munster's headline is maybe overstated a little bit. Do we know?
We don't have any numbers from Microsoft. They haven't released any at all, and are not. And the reason they say they're not, and you can believe this or not believe it, is that they say it's in limited distribution, which is it's through Microsoft stores only right now. So they don't feel it's fair to measure it against devices that are being sold more broadly.
Okay. In other words, it's not doing all that well.
But we don't know.
Right?
We
It's
do
doing
not know.
great. What are you talking about?
Am I nuts? But that's what that sounds like. Well, we're not going to tell you numbers because really it wouldn't be fair because it's not in very many stores. That's like saying it's not selling well.
Well, you could treat it like a movie and say, it's only in
Only
a certain
10
number
screens,
of theaters, and yet
right.
it made this amount of money.
They
That's
could
pretty
say
good.
that. They could say, yeah, well, no, because everyone wants to
I
know
mean,
what unit
there's
sales
all
are.
kinds of ways to spin things. As I keep trying, as lately I've been repeating again and again like a crazy robot. People or companies that don't release numbers it's suspicious.
Right.
It creates a sense of they're hiding something.
The only reason you would do it is if the numbers are so bad that it's actually worse if you told people.
Yeah, they're quick to release numbers that are good.
Yeah.
As they would be,
So your policy either is never release numbers
or always release.
or always
numbers.
release numbers. Because otherwise people are
Or
going to
you
read the tea
release them in a
leaves.
crazy way that you can't really tell. Like they're selling 5 times better than they were on the first day.
What Apple does is they do release
Yes.
numbers, but it's all the products together, so you can never break
Yeah.
out individual products. That's probably what Microsoft's doing at this point.
Apple does insidious things like they'll release market or sales numbers for North America,
Right.
but not for the United States.
Right, right.
So,
I guess everybody kind of does this, don't they? Nobody
well,
wants
maybe.
to.
I don't know. Every company has their own little weird flukes. I mean, Amazon this week said that they sold 4 times as many Kindles as they sold last holiday
Right.
season. Or
Amazon's
two times.
notorious for doing this.
The year before that, it was 4 times.
Right.
The year before that, it was the best holiday they'd ever have. So
Right.
I don't know
Yeah, it's all spin.
where we're at here exactly, but
So now there are other RT tablets. Obviously, the Surface is not the only one, and I think I haven't played with the other ones, but just looking at them, some of them look like they might be better choices. Do you think there are better choices?
actually, no. I think they're all very similar from a hardware perspective. I would say that some of the unique things about the Surface put it over the top compared to other RT tablets.
Okay. I do love Metro.
Really? You love Metro? You're not allowed to love Metro, Leo. What's wrong with you?
That's actually not accurate. I love the start screen.
Yeah.
I love the tiles on the start screen. I just think it's very pretty and lively. It's modern feeling.
Would you describe it as fast and fluid?
That's
Could
not
you
the
just say
two,
that?
those are the 2 words that leapt to mind. No, but it's not slow. It's not sluggish. Unless you have more than one app going at the same time, then it can kind of start to bog. I think you've said it before. Clover Trail might be the one to wait for, right?
Yeah, and I do have a Clover Trail tablet that's quite good, I have to say.
You do?
Yeah.
I wish that this Surface was Clover Trail. That would have made a big, big difference.
For people who don't know what that is, that's an Intel. That's the next generation.
Atom processor.
Atom, I'm sorry.
So it sounds terrible, but actually, compared to Windows RT, it's a step up. Performance-wise, battery life is better. The app compatibility is there. Hardware compatibility as well. Like ARM, though, and like Windows RT, these things are also limited in some ways. USB 2 on the chipset, not USB 3. 2 gigs of RAM, not 4 or more.
Yeah, that's that Atom thing. I hate that.
Yeah, it's very strange. So it's a 32-bit system. It's it's limited in some ways, but we're it's sort of an artificial comparison in some ways because we're talking about a device here, not a full-fledged PC. And I think this is the future. Where we move to services that are in the cloud, and we need less stuff on the hardware. On the device itself.
Right.
Less storage, less processing power, and so forth. And so these devices, Tim Morella said that this week, Windows 8 in her discussion was designed for the future. And I do think that is the future of computing. So it's we can complain about it.
I played a little bit with the Acer Windows 8 Pro laptop. Boy, is that sweet.
Is it?
Yeah.
Which one? The big one or the
little skinny,
so that's I believe that's a Clover Trail. I think that's a Clover Trail one.
Is that the
It's a small
S7?
W.
Yeah.
It's
That's the new one,
beautiful,
right?
and it seemed fast enough. I don't know what the battery life is. Robert Ballister is going to review it on Before You Buy in This Week in Enterprise Tech next week. So
Yeah,
The Clover
battery
Trail.
life, I was just talking to CNET about that today. The battery life on the S7 is about 6 hours, they're saying.
that's pretty good.
The Clover Trail tablet I had here was over 9 hours
Yeah, that's what you want.
streaming HD video over the internet.
Now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah, it's good.
So is it the Digitimes? Now, I don't trust Digitimes completely. I mean, they've got many rumors wrong. But they said that Microsoft is cutting their Surface orders in half.
Sure.
Is that credible?
From next to nothing to nothing?
Hey, guys, we're only going to order 4 this year.
They said from 4 million to 2 million. And so, again, it's Digitimes, so you never know. You have to take it with more than just a grain of salt, maybe a whole shaker. Right. But maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what to think there.
And this is RT or is this Pro? We're talking RT now.
RT.
Yeah. RT, yeah.
And maybe cutting prices. Now, see, that would be a rumor you'd really want to nip in the bud if you're Microsoft, because you don't want people to hold off.
Right.
Well, and God, can you imagine the uproar if they cut prices right now?
You can't.
Right? You've got 1 million plus people, whatever it is, that bought that thing on day one.
Unless you hand me a check, don't cut the price.
That's the thing, right? Yeah. It's like what happened with the iPhone, right? That first summer, I think they came out at $600 and they dropped the price within a couple months.
Had to give people money.
They had to, because that's just horrific. Yeah. So that's an awful. Can you imagine the headlines if Microsoft started sending refunds to Surface customers in the build up to the
Microsoft pays you Christmas for making a mistake?
Oh, they would be relentless and abusive.
Everyone gets an extra type cover and a touch cover. And
then you'll have people saying, "That's why I bought it early. I knew they were going to do this.
I knew they would." Do we have pricing and dates for Pro yet? For Surface Pro, rather?
Yeah, we do. We have we know a little bit. We know January for sure.
Yeah. That's what they've always said, though. 3 months after RTU.
Right. Yep. And today we also found out the pricing without a keyboard. Yeah. The 64 gig model, $899, the 128, $999, and that includes a pen with both of them, but no keyboard.
Does that seem pricey to you?
It's what I expected because they had said it was going to come in around Ultrabook pricing, so I was thinking $1,000.
Yep, I was thinking the same thing. Although it doesn't come with a keyboard, right? I mean, when I was thinking that originally, we didn't know what Surface RT pricing was, and I seem to recall them talking about this thing coming with a keyboard. Like, that was the way they described it. And, of course, when Surface RT came out, the base version was the one that didn't come with a keyboard. The other ones had it. And now with this one, none of them have it. And you have to think they're trying to hold the line on cost here. So something has gone off the rails from a cost perspective. But it's a little high without a keyboard, I think.
1920 by 1080, is that right?
1920 by 1080, yep.
That's pretty good. That's a nice resolution, I guess. It's certainly better than the Surface RT.
It is, but it's also an 11.6 inch screen, something
bigger
like
screen, right?
No, it's the same size screen. Isn't
it's the same screen. Oh,
yeah. So 1920 on that kind of display is going to be tough for the desktop. It's kind of
it's already tough on this one.
Yeah.
One of my real objections, one of the reasons I don't think they should have put desktop on here, is the touch targets are way too small. You try to use Excel on the tablet, and you can't touch the cell. At least not with my fingers. You
can play around with the display settings to help that.
But what you end up doing is you use the keyboard and mouse.
You could also do that.
It basically it turns it into a laptop. At that point, it's a laptop. Yep. As soon as you're in desktop, as far as I'm concerned, it's a laptop.
Yep.
Which is okay.
Yeah. We know a couple other things. We know the processor, 3rd generation Intel Core i5. So Ivy Bridge.
Okay.
Just under 2 pounds. So the RT is 1.5 pounds, so it's heavier.
Mm-hmm. A little thicker.
Yep.
Little
USB
fannier.
Little fannier, yeah.
There's going to be some fans going on in there.
USB 3, that's good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, USB 3 is good. But there's only one USB 3 port, and I think the big issue for that computer, because it is a computer, is they need a docking solution of some kind. I hope that this connector they have on the bottom can also be used to plug this thing into a dock of some kind, where you would string multiple USB devices and an external display while you were at home, and then you could take it with you, when you went. I hope they're doing that. They didn't say anything about that. I'd really like to see that, especially for this device.
And no Office included with this one.
Oh, that's the thing that makes Surface RT such a deal, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's not a slam dunk. I think is the way to say it. I mean, it's obviously has some positives. It's got some negatives. I guess we'll see. I mean, it seems like a lot of people are holding out for this. There is a lot of excitement around it still. I mean, so for all of the Surface RT stuff, which has been fairly controversial, I mean, obviously some people are saying it's too expensive, but I've gotten a lot of feedback already from people who are just looking forward to this device. So I bet it does pretty well.
You can run your existing apps. That's the thing people keep coming back to. It's like, I'm waiting for this because I want to run this app.
No, that's something I run into as well. You know, as if you were to go back and look at what the software I used back when we started doing Windows Weekly back in whatever year that was, 2006 or 7 or whatever, compare it to today, I use a lot less software than I used to. But I still use software that I can't use on Windows RT. It's like there's just stuff I cannot do that I need to do every day on that machine. And I think it will be fixed over time, but as of today, I still look at the Pro version and think, yeah, like that's the one I would want because I could actually get work done on this thing. And that makes a big difference.
Okay. Well, I'm a holdout for Pro. I'm glad I got the Surface RT. I'm not trying to talk you out of it. But no, and I always thought, I got it because I didn't want to wait 3 months. This was smart on Microsoft's part. Because you're right, I probably did want the Pro.
I've been using my Surface RT just like I used my iPad. I mean, I use it mostly for web surfing, for some light work, but I really don't need the Pro. Like so many people are like, oh, you're going to sell it now, right, and get the Pro. I don't need the Pro. There's nothing I'm missing app-wise that I need.
It's got Notepad. What more can you use?
It does. That's it.
That's all you need.
I'm golden.
Yeah.
There's like 5 different versions of Notepad or more in the Windows Store right now. So I'm set with that.
Yeah. Microsoft is asking
campaign right there.
They are. I'm set.
I'm set.
No, it's like the ultimate notepad machine. Surface RT.
With Surface RT, I'm set. It's the ultimate notepad machine. Mary Jo Foley. I like it. I bet it'll be on the back of the machine any day now. So Microsoft is soliciting feedback via survey. I see.
Which is weird because you'd think they would have done that before they made the device, but maybe I'm just being sarcastic. It's like, here it is. What do you think?
What do you think?
I don't know. 2 USB ports, could have broadband, internet, something. I don't know.
You know what I wonder? So we don't know the questions that they're going to send because it's still 2 weeks out till they actually mail those surveys.
I'll be getting that in the mail. Everybody who bought one will be getting one. Okay.
Yep. And I'm curious if the reason they're doing this is to check on some of the quality issues that we've been hearing about, like the keyboard splitting, power chargers that don't really work that well. I'm really curious how many of these things are going back because this is the first time Microsoft's made its own PC. So, of course, there's going to be a learning curve and a quality issue.
When you say that, it's kind of hard to believe.
It is, right?
The first time Microsoft's made its own PC. Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
For that reason alone, it's good to have.
Yeah, maybe the survey is more like, hey, has your keyboard split? How did you find customer service when you tried to return it, people?
Have you returned
How many times did you plug it in to charge it and it didn't actually charge? Sorry about that.
I have had no defects at all. The only thing I've noticed is that sometimes if I've disconnected the type cover, it takes a little while for it to notice that I've reconnected it. So I'll start typing.
Yep. But you flip it behind, and it's supposed to go in a virtual keyboard mode, and it doesn't.
Yeah,
there are little things like
that. Which actually seem to be getting better. I don't know why. For a while it wouldn't go into portrait mode, but now it doesn't seem to have problems. I couldn't possibly be getting better, so I don't know what's going on.
It's a learning machine. It's sentient.
Hey, they put the page up for Surface with Windows 8 Pro. Coming in early 2013, starting at $899 on Microsoft.com/Surface.
Yep, end of January.
Looks very similar. That's what's interesting about this. I mean, if you just took that picture, you wouldn't be able to tell if it were a RT or Pro. It's exactly the same, right?
Yep.
Yeah. There's no special
Yeah.
anything. But it has things like BitLocker, and of course it has it's an Intel processor. And I think Microsoft deserves a lot of credit for getting this thing running on ARM so compatibly, so thoroughly. That's pretty impressive. You're not buying it.
I'm not understanding the point of it, I guess.
Well, it's about you ported to ARM. That's a big deal. Yep. You ported to
it's first generation, right? It's first generation. It's like the iPad 1.
Yeah.
It's like, you put one out there, then there's going to be one hopefully with something more than just Wi-Fi support at some point, right?
Yeah.
It's not really. I mean, it's like, Apple made the switch to the Intel chip on the Mac, and then they released the first MacBook with a Intel chip, and then they said, oh, and here's the version that runs on PowerPC still because we know some people want that. I mean, like you make the switch. Like you don't do both. I mean, I think the problem with the whole ARM thing is that it's just confusing. Like why? What are the advantages of this thing? Why would I pick this over the other one based on some of the limitations? And I don't feel like they've done an effective job of explaining this, but
I mean, it's also odd that they chose to come out with the RT model first, right? And that the Pro model isn't available till after Christmas. That's also an odd choice. And some people are saying blame Intel for that. I'd blame Intel if Microsoft were using Clover Trail in it, but they're not, right? So it's kind of weird. Why isn't it out now? I'm curious why it isn't. I mean, maybe it's an issue of there weren't enough panels, supply issue, something like that. But otherwise, I'm curious why they did it that way.
They announced in June that it was going to be this way. Remember? I mean, they knew all along they were going to do it this way. So this is clearly some planned out strategy of some kind. It is odd.
Maybe we'll never know. Maybe Steven Sinofsky locked it up in a safe. You never know.
Right. He took his Cheshire cat and he left.
What are we going to do with that 5,000-word blog posts? Are they going to keep doing them?
We're going to get hours of our life back is what we're going to do. What I would like to see is whoever does this next time write the most concise and to the point post ever imagined. I hope it's like that.
Windows 8 blogging reimagined.
Exactly. 500 words or less.
Only tweets allowed.
Only tweets.
Express yourself and move on, please.
Only tweets. And there's now a storage size disclaimer I see on the Surface page saying...
What does it say? Do you see it?
Let me pull it up.
Pull it up. It is. It's on Microsoft.com/Surface. And in one of the footnotes, it says go down to the storage page. And it says, with a 32 gig Surface RT, you have approximately 16 gigs of storage available for user content. 64 gigs, you have 45 gigs storage available for user content. And this is because I think somebody has sued or is threatening to sue Microsoft over this.
Please.
Yeah.
Well, you know what,
you
though?
said it had this much,
Oh,
and it doesn't.
It's one of those things, like, depending on where you're coming from, that sounds ludicrous, but because people will, who know computers will say, oh, everyone knows Windows takes up some, Yeah, everyone does know that, but, you buy a 32 gigabyte iPad. How much space do you think iOS takes up on that thing? Do you know?
Yeah, I can.
No, seriously, it's like 500
gigs. No,
it's like 500 megabytes or so. It's tiny.
All? Really? Oh,
yeah, it's tiny. Windows 8 takes up gigabytes.
Well,
I mean, it's humongous. Well, I know, but you see,
yeah, they should tell people no, because you really only get about half the storage that they claim.
Yeah,
so that's
you're advertising the storage of the device.
Yeah,
it's not like when you buy a 128 gigabyte SSD and you have 120 gigabytes of space. I mean, this is a huge difference.
No, you're right.
And I think
that is a good point. That's a very good point.
I think there's a way to do this, and I think Windows has evolved to the point where they could do this pretty seamlessly, where Windows is on some solid state storage on the device that's separate from the storage, and it takes up whatever amount of space that is. And then as you install apps and your data, that goes into the storage, and that secondary storage is the amount, and that's the 32 gig. And I hope they kind of move to that eventually, because the way it is now, it's understandable why people would feel slighted, by the amount of storage on there.
Well, yeah, I bought a 16 gig, and there's only about 8 left or something like that, and that it's like, well, it is a little bit of a shock. But most people will go, oh, yeah, I guess that's how big the install is. Yeah.
Right.
They need it. It's just a disclaimer.
It's like when you get a spare tire and it takes up all of the trunk, Leo.
Right. Well, that's
It's like you don't have a trunk.
That's a good point. That's a great analogy, actually.
I can come up with these things all day long.
Yeah, you're good. That's why you're Paul Thurrott and I'm not.
Wow. That and my parents.
That and a few other things. A few other things.
All issues.
DNA, all of that. Hair, youth, good looks, all of that. 40 million units Windows 8, or 40 million, what is it? 40 million copies of Windows? There's 40 million people using Windows 8. Is that what that number means?
None of those are
None
that.
of
No.
None of the. What does the 40 million mean?
40 million licenses sold is what it means.
Okay.
Which we still don't really know what that means either. We don't know licenses sold to whom. So when I went back and asked Microsoft this week, 40 million to end users, 40 million to the channel, 40 million paid. What is it? All we could get is a no comment on that. So 40 million licenses have been sold to someone in the first month that Windows 8 was available.
Somebody has it.
Somebody. I think OEMs. And probably also a mix of that with the Windows 8 upgrades that were bought for either $15 or $39.99. Probably a mix of those two things.
Right.
Well, the question, though, is not who is running this thing or how many people actually have it, but rather whether this represents a positive development of some kind. 40 million, when you first hear that, you're like, wow, that's a lot. That's a big number. That sounds, 40 million of anything is a lot. The thing I just would remind people of, though, is that Windows 7 consistently sold 20 million copies a month. Its entire life cycle. Every time they came up with a number, you could do the math, and it was almost exactly 20 million every single month. So that 40 million figure is double the normal sales rate. And I can't help but think that it should have been more than double, right? Because it's the launch. This is the
when you say
cheapest
normal
version of
sales
Windows.
rate, you mean the sales rate after the launch, like just day in, day out?
Normal. I mean, in fact, the figure they came up, based on what they've said, Windows 7 sold 40 million the first month, and then sold 20 million the second month, and then sold 20 million for the rest of its life cycle. So I don't know that double is all that great. This thing is the cheapest version of Windows they've ever sold, ever.
Right.
They've made it so easy to get, so cheaply, that I actually figure lots of people bought this thing and didn't install it just to get it cheap and then install it later because it's so cheap. You could, if you bought a Windows 7 PC after a certain date, you could get it for $15. And not just it, I mean, the high-end version of it. In the past, they used to have all these different product versions. Typically, consumers would get Home Premium. This time around, everyone gets Pro. This is the high-end version, too. You can upgrade on the web for $40. It's super easy. Any version of Windows. Any supported version of Windows, any legitimate, reasonable version of Windows. And if you want the retail package for some reason, it's $70. Like Windows has never been this cheap. And I'm not saying, obviously it's 40 million. I mean, it's hard to debate that that's not a huge number, but compared to what they normally do, I don't know. And the other thing I would add, by the way, is that Windows or PCs in general have sold at a fairly consistent rate now for a couple of years, 350 to 370 million units a year. Obviously, PC growth has not been incredibly high, but it's a very mature market. Windows 8 is selling into a market that should be bigger than the market for Windows 7 because it's not just PCs, it's devices. And the market for Windows PCs plus tablets arguably should be bigger than the market for just PCs like we had a couple of years ago. It's early days, obviously, and things can change. But, I think we need to look at this number a month from now, 3 months from now, 2 quarters from now, a year from now, to really have an understanding of how well it has done. But I don't know. I know I'm like the Black Crow over here, but I just feel like 40 million is not actually that great.
Well, I'm not sure the price.
In perspective.
Price is relevant since most people buy Windows with a new computer, so the price is hidden. But
no, I understand that. But what I'm saying is there's a curve that occurs on sales. You're going to have the launch bump.
Right.
Then it goes down.
Right.
And then does whatever it does. Windows 7 was a straight line, basically. It didn't move at all.
Which is surprising. I mean, there arguably is a very, very successful version of Windows.
I would call it suspiciously consistent. but whatever.
It was like it was 40 million. Wasn't it 40 million in the first month for Windows 7? 60 million for the first 2 months, like total, right?
Yep.
So they had the same kind of bump, 40 million at the beginning for Windows 7. I think one thing you have to remember when you're looking at Windows 7 versus Windows 8 is Windows 7's predecessor was Vista. So a lot of people had skipped that or were really unhappy with it and just wanted to jump immediately to Windows 7 when that came out. And that's different because Windows 7 is
worse. But is it worse now economically than it was in 2009? No, I don't think so either. In fact, it may have been worse then. I don't know. I guess, again, it's 40 million. So, okay, obviously, big number. But I don't know. It seems like that 1 month, that should be the big bang. I don't think it's going up from here. I guess is what I'm saying. I'd love to be wrong about that, by the way, but I don't see it creeping up from 40 million. I don't think December is going to be 45 million or something.
I'm gonna rain on your Eeyore parade here for a minute.
Okay, please do. I know. I certainly. Yes, please.
Okay. Better you than me, Mary Jo. That's all.
One thing I'm going to say is I think something to keep in mind here is when you go in a store right now, if you want to buy a new Windows 8 PC, there's not a lot of things to choose from right now.
That's true. Yep.
Like when you go into Best Buy, there's like 4 choices. None of them are that great. You see battery life like 3 hours, 4 hours. These are not the flagship Windows 8 PCs, and it's too bad. But there's this gap between the Windows 8 launch and the time when the flagship models of PCs, like the new HP, the new Dell, the new Lenovo, all of these running, I think all of them running Clover Trail are coming. That's not going to happen until December. So they've had this weird gap in between, where normally you hopefully have some of your flagship models out there, and they've had a couple of those out there, but not enough of them, I think, to make a dent. So I'm thinking the curve will probably look like 40 million and then more, and then we're going to see what happens after that, because then we'll see if the demand continues consistently or doesn't. But I think they're going to get the holiday bump.
Okay. You're right that there aren't enough good. That's a fair assessment. I mean, I had been writing about Microsoft's disappointment internally with Windows 8 sales, and that's exactly what it's based on, that the PC makers had made promises and announcements about what they were going to have in the market, and they shipped a very small percentage of what they said they were going to ship in time for the launch. And it really, you can go to a Microsoft store like I did in Bellevue right around build, and it's amazing because if you had gone in there 2 months ago, you would have seen, I don't know, a dozen or more different Windows 7 PCs. You went in there right after the Windows 8 launch, and it was Surface and 4 other computers. That was it.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that. That doesn't reflect well, frankly.
No, and that's exactly that disappointment that Microsoft has. Tammy Reller mentioned this in her speech this week, where they made the 40 million announcement, where I don't remember her exact wording, but she admitted that it wasn't enough and that they were disappointed, and that this was going to change, that things are in the pipeline, and those devices that were announced are going to eventually come out. So, yeah.
But that could also explain the lack of. See, I have a hard time saying 40 million lack of sales.
I know.
Well, it seems okay to me.
Remember, you get 20 million.
Those aren't sales, though.
In the channel.
Those aren't sales.
You think it's in the channel?
They're
talking about channel.
I do. I think it's in the channel.
Well, because most of their sales are to PC makers.
But channel is not meaningful when you're talking about digital sales, though, because it's not like there's boxes in a warehouse somewhere that aren't. If they're on machines, it will be sold. I'm almost certain.
Yeah, but again, not to beat this to death, but when Microsoft makes a sale, it is to a PC maker typically. That's a sale. It's still a sale. They get paid for that. Right. If the PC maker never sells that version of Windows,
that's their problem.
That's their problem. They still made a sale.
Right.
It means they won't buy as many going forward, right? So it will impact their sales, but it's still a sale. I mean, Microsoft gets paid.
True. Right. MPD came out with numbers today. They measure the retail channel and all. And what they said was they believed there was a lot of leftover inventory from back to school that is having to clear out of the channel before Windows 8 PCs can filter in, because Windows 8 didn't RTM until August. So they missed back to school with Windows 8. So you had all these Windows 7 PCs in the channel that have to get moved out of the channel first, right, before you can start pushing through with Windows 8.
Are you suggesting that November 1st is not the ideal time to launch a product?
I don't know.
Is that what you're
How
saying?
could you say this thing?
I know. This is something that's come up now for years with Windows. It was even worse with Vista because Vista, they split the launch between business and consumers, and the consumer version launched, I think, in January 2007, and it's ludicrous. It's terrible. But even now, when you miss back to school,
Yeah.
you get into a situation where only the most forward-leaning of institutions, and we're talking about a very tiny percentage, would ever even consider rolling out Windows 8, and then it would be one of those mid-semester things, or there's something you would do over the Christmas break, in the middle of the school year. But no one's going to do that, really. I mean, that's not, this is, you just put this off another year at best. And it's just such a horrible time. And, maybe with the schedule changes and the different way they're going to be doing things going forward, which we'll talk about later, this will be the last time this happens, that they can get this right for whatever the next version of Windows is.
All these
Yeah, the other one that got delayed, we should add this, is the Tai Chi. Remember that one that is the Asus dual screen thing that a lot of people were interested in? Stevie Mac Jr. is
Lenovo's
on Twitter
doing the
saying-
yoga, and the Asus
Yep.
is doing the Tai Chi. Who's
Yep.
doing the Tai Bo?
Exactly.
I want the Pilates.
We can do that. Yeah, you could do the Pilates
I'll
PC.
do I'll do the planking PC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so Tai Chi indefinitely, or at least until next year, delayed. Another one that you're like, oh, everybody was kind of looking at that one too. I mean, maybe they weren't going to buy it, but they wanted to kick the tires because it was so unusual.
Although it's us, right? This is just the tech press. Nobody else in the real world knows anything about this stuff.
Well, but I used Lenovo as an example in one article some time ago. I'm not going to remember all the permutations off the top of my head, but I love Lenovo. I like their products a lot. But I think they have one of every single kind of Windows 8 computer you can have. It's crazy. They have the Yoga, which is this new kind of thing where the screen twists over backwards and you can have the keyboard on the bottom for some reason. They have a traditional tablet PC, like the old style one, where it twists around and the screen kind of comes backwards on top of the keyboard. They have like the ThinkPad Tablet 2, which is just a slate tablet that has a dock and does all this other stuff. They have everything from run-of-the-mill laptops and Ultrabooks to these crazy Windows 8 devices. And, it's like we're just going to make one of everything and see what sticks. It's like I think one of the big problems with this generation of devices is simply the diversity of it is too much. It's that French dressing thing when you go to the supermarket. You go to a high-end supermarket and there's 127 different kinds of dressing. It's like it goes from being wonderful because you have choice to being terrible because you have too much choice.
Android's like that a little bit.
Yeah. Definitely.
And French dressing.
And French dressing.
I say just take the orange one, whatever,
Just go Russian, really. I mean.
How was your Thanksgiving, by the way? I didn't ask you guys. Yeah, speaking of Russian dressing. Do you know why I make that connection?
No.
A turkey sandwich is not a turkey sandwich unless it's on seed rye with Russian dressing.
Wow. I would never
wrong?
eat that.
No? Is it just me?
I will tell you that Thanksgiving-wise, the greatest thing about Thanksgiving is not Thanksgiving. It's the day after Thanksgiving. Because there's something really wonderful about cold everything with hot gravy on top of it.
Yeah. That's the leftovers of the whole thing for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think so.
Russian. So you put a seed rye, it's a turkey, you put some dressing on that, maybe some yams on that.
Well,
whatever you got. A little cranberry
described a lot of
sauce.
foods I would never eat, let alone
Your
together.
little gravy, and then Russian dressing. And
You
then
get
you
the cranberry
That's how you
sauce,
make
you
a
kinda have to
tempeh
suction out of
Reuben.
the-
Very
a
similar.
tempeh Reuben. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
Mary Jo. That's
It
right.
is. Russian dressing right on there. Yep.
Do you do a turkey? Obviously, you're a vegetarian, so do you do a tofurkey? What do you do for Thanksgiving, Mary?
No, I made tempeh this year. I made some orange glazed tempeh, and then I can eat all the same sides as everybody else. Potatoes and gravy, vegetarian gravy, of course.
You are an affront to the history of this country.
I know. Tempeh, as far as I'm concerned, is a town in Arizona. I'm not going to eat that.
exactly.
Whatever. I don't know what it's made of. I don't want to know.
Tempeh, Tai Chi, it's all the same.
I don't know whoever looked at a turkey and thought we can eat this thing.
I know.
It is the nastiest animal on earth.
In Australia, they got something called a bush turkey. It looks just like a turkey, but it nests in the ground and it digs a hole in the ground.
Oh, God,
so if you
even
think a
worse.
turkey's bad, a dusty, dirty turkey is worse.
Sure.
We're going to take a break. On that note, and come back with more. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley. This is Windows Weekly. Yes, indeed. I want to talk about...
let me ask you a quick question before you do this.
Yeah.
Are you using your Surface not on power?
Right now, no.
In other words, it's not... See, that's the problem you have.
It keeps going to sleep.
The Surface that's not plugged in is like an iPad. It turns off like every 10 seconds.
Constantly. So you notice that I'm constantly tapping the top.
That's why I asked. So if you plug that thing in, you can change the power settings so it stays online. That's what I do with mine because it drives me crazy how often it turns off. I see.
The cord. You see this cord?
I see the issue.
You see, it'll plug into you, but it won't make it to the Surface. If I could have it over here. And then I'll be all right. I do like the MagSafe.
But you still need to change the power options because by default, even on power, it actually has the exact same power profile. It's crazy. Anyway, I saw you turning it on again and again.
Charms, settings.
Yeah. Actually, you don't know. Go to the desktop.
Oh, see?
And tap on the power
desktop.
Dealy. In the bottom right there, the little power icon.
Power Dealy.
Yeah, power settings.
Power settings, adjust screen price.
Change plan settings, because you only get one plan in Surface.
And this is where the tiny, tiny targets are a little tough to reach.
Yep. Well, I changed mine so they're a little bigger. But then on...
So I'm on balanced, so what should I be on?
That's fine. Just change the plan.
Oh, change the power plan.
Yep. And then you see it says on battery and plugged in. I changed mine to dim the display at 10 minutes and put the computer to sleep at 30 when it's plugged in. Because it just drives me crazy how often it turns off.
Yeah.
It's set to 1 minute and 2 minutes, I think, by default.
I shouldn't be doing this on the air. Yeah, dim the display on battery 1 minute, plugged in 1 minute. That doesn't make sense.
No,
never
crazy.
Dim the display when I'm plugged in. Never. Oh, there's nothing to... It's not going to wear it out, is it? Should never put the computer to sleep. Never.
This thing has a shelf life of 3 months. Don't worry about it.
I'm not worried. Exactly. Oh, my God. 5 years from now, this thing might wear out. Wouldn't that be terrible? All right. Save the changes. All right. Now, so this should never turn off now because I'm plugged in. Woo! Back to OneNote. I love that you could slide in from the left and all the apps that you were running. I think that's really cool. Look, here's the how you connect to the internet on the boat. Let me tell you. And when they say internet, that's really kind of a loose meaning for what this is. You connect to the internet on the boat. It's 25 cents a minute. Every time I see this, I get the chills. It's like, Wow. It was bad. I was disconnected from the world. It was sad. But it's a good vacation. It's what all of us in the industry should do from time to time. Because you realize, really, that nowadays, almost all the devices you have in your pocket, if they're not connected to the internet, forget it. All that cloud stuff, everything, forget it. It's just a fancy calculator.
And to the people who would complain that is exactly the problem, I would say, I'm sure there were people with horses in the beginning of the 20th century who were saying the exact same thing about cars. You need gas. What are you going to do when you don't have gas?
Yeah, you run out of gas and you're stuck. I just feed my horse apples.
We've never had a problem getting gas. Why are you complaining about such things?
Squarespace. Talk about the internet. This is, if you're going to have a presence on the internet, this is the way to do it. Squarespace is hosting, the best hosting out there. And I'm not kidding. I mean, you cannot bring a Squarespace site down. Traffic will not harm it. I think that's a good slogan. Squarespace, traffic cannot harm us. Nor will you be embarrassed to show off your Squarespace site. Now, one thing Squarespace is great for is artists. Photographers, filmmakers, writers, painters, animators, people who have a certain aesthetic, because it is not only do you get the hosting, but you get this great content management system, the software, that really matches your aesthetic. And you can choose from a bunch of designer templates. I'll just pick one, for instance, called Avenue. And so this is a portfolio, just gorgeous. Actually, let me go back and view the live demo so you can see what Avenue would look like. So once you start with the template, whoops, too far. Once you start with the template, you're going to then modify it, and that's the beauty of it. This is just a starting point. You get to make it match your aesthetic. And every time you create a website with Squarespace, the new Squarespace, it's what we call mobile responsive design. That means that when you go to a site, or rather when your users go to your site, Doesn't matter what size device. They could be doing it on a phone, on a tablet, on a big screen. It's going to look the same. You don't have a separate mobile site. It's all the same. One of the ways they do that, whenever you upload an image to Squarespace to post on your site, it automatically makes multiple sizes, one for every possible device. And it also, when you do the template, it automatically will resize. It's just fantastic. It's so great. Great way to build a page. And, of course, when you're posting content, you could tie in your Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. The commenting system is wonderful. And it uses all the latest web technology, HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, JSON. And if you know those, by the way, you can get under the hood and get in there and mess with it, but you don't have to. You don't have to get the benefit of that unless you want to. I want you to try the new Squarespace. Faster, better, 50-plus new and improved features. Just the best hosting and the best software. Now, here's the best part. You can try it for free for 2 weeks. I mean, you don't need a credit card. You don't need anything. You just go to Squarespace, click that Get Started button, pick your template. You can import everything from your existing WordPress, TypePad, or Blogger, including the comments, the images. All the links are preserved. All the SEO is preserved. Try it for 2 weeks. If you decide to buy, you'll be very pleased. They've simplified the pricing. There's really two plans, the standard or the unlimited plan. I'm going to tell you how to get 10% off, so I recommend you get a year. That way, you get the maximum savings. You can actually even buy more than a year, but let's not go crazy. The standard plan, $8 a month when you buy a year. The unlimited plan, only $16 a month when you buy a year. And both include a custom domain for free. They'll wire it up, mygreatwebsite.com, whatever that is. The unlimited plan is truly unlimited. Unlimited pages, unlimited galleries, great if you're a photographer, unlimited blogs, but also unlimited bandwidth. Not only do Squarespace sites not go down when you get a lot of traffic, you don't get that extra bill. Most sites it's going to cost you if you suddenly get popular. Unlimited storage, too, and unlimited contributors make this unlimited plan a really good deal at $16 a month when you buy the annual. So here's the deal. Try it for free. You don't have to mention us. There's no offer code. Just try it for free. But if you decide to buy, that's when I'd like you to say Windows 11. Windows 11 is the offer code because it'll get you 10% off and it'll get Paul and Mary Jo credit for the purchase. The new Squarespace is here, better and prettier than ever. Squarespace.com. Use the offer code Windows 11 to save 10% off your first purchase. We're talking Windows. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley. It went to sleep. It's not supposed to go to sleep.
You probably don't have it plugged in correctly. That's another problem with the service.
It fell off. I give up.
People tell me that never happens. That's all I'm saying.
I give up. You're right, Paul. You know more than anybody.
No.
So what else do we... Blue. What is this Blue? I just heard this thing about Windows Blue. Is that Windows 9?
Come on. You didn't just hear it, Leo.
Oh, you guys have been talking about it a long time?
We have. We've talked about it a lot on Windows Weekly.
Blue?
Actually. Yep.
I must have been going to the bathroom when you talked about it. I don't remember.
Blue is the version of Windows between Windows 8 and Windows 9, we believe. And in August, I heard it was due out in around August of 2013. It sounds like it's a feature pack more than just a service pack. It's not just a bunch of bug fixes. It supposedly is also going to include some new features, and we don't know what those features are yet. But it's all part of the move of Microsoft to more rapidly update products across the whole company.
Do they want to get to the point where they're like Apple doing a yearly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say. So, it's not just Windows, though, that's doing this, we should say. Visual Studio this week just came out with the first update to Visual Studio 2012 called Update 1. The CRM team's been doing this. The Office 365 team's been doing this. So now we're going to start seeing Windows do what some of the other divisions at Microsoft have been doing already, which is getting things out more rapidly than every 2 to 3 years, which is much needed in the new world order.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ones who are scared of this, and rightly so, are enterprise users because they don't necessarily want a new version.
No.
They don't want Windows to rev that fast. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what kind of breaks Microsoft puts on this, so that if you're an enterprise user, you could say, wait, I don't want this update, or I want to delay the installation of this update. And that's something that Microsoft does in CRM and also in Office 365 now. You can postpone when you get the updates if you're not ready for them.
Is the issue now, though, that your users are going to say, hey, we're not using the latest version? I mean, I hear that all the time. That is the number one complaint. People say, if you want to say something bad about, I work in government, we're still using Windows XP.
Oh,
right?
By the way, not just Windows XP, but lots of software from that era.
Right. But that's why there's pressure on the enterprise, even if they don't have to upgrade, because nobody's saying just because we put it out every year, you have to upgrade.
I think this is part of this whole letting go movement, as I call it, where businesses and enterprises especially used to be very highly controlled.
Right.
And that there's this movement toward, bring your own device and so forth, right. Consumerization of IT. I just think I don't think it's ever going to go away completely, but in the same way that you could bring an iPad home and update it yourself, you're going to bring your Windows device home and update it yourself, and it's not going to be, I just think that's going to go away. So I think that this schedule, if anything, is not aggressive enough. That
every 6 months, a new Windows.
Not a new Windows. But if you look at the way they update online services like Windows Intune or Office 365, these things are basically on a quarterly schedule or twice a year.
Yeah, but they don't announce a new version. It's not like it's just an update.
Right, but that's would be the case with Windows as well. Update one for Visual Studio.
What's with the blue?
Well, this is the first time they've done this kind of thing. Right. So I think this is now a.
Is the next one going to be green?
Right. Yeah, we don't know why it's the color. Like some people are saying code blue. Does it have to do with that? I don't know what it's about. If anybody out there does, that would be interesting to hear.
You guys think it'll be a free update to Windows 8?
It could be. It could be free. It could be, or a very low price. More online again, like with what Apple's doing, perhaps.
Yep. And it's in lieu of calling it a service pack. You think it's kind of like a service pack?
Yeah, I think it's not just a service pack though. Visual Studio 2012 Update 1. That's not a service. That's not a service pack. That's actually features included as well as fixes.
Yeah, right. It's features plus fixes. Yeah,
right. So I can see why you want to call it blue.
It's still Windows 8, right? I mean, it's you're going to be running Windows 8.
It's still 8. It's just is it okay? Is blue to Windows 8 as Windows 7 was to Vista?
Conceptually, perhaps.
Yeah.
I think the Windows 7 to Vista thing is something they need to do outside of Blue. That a lot of it would just be fixing apps, which doesn't have to happen in the context of Blue.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Shmuley asks on Twitter, he's listening, and he said, what if it's like XP SP2? I don't know if it'll be that big an update, because that was actually a whole new operating system, even though it was called a service pack. So I don't think it's more like that.
Right.
I think it's more probably like a feature pack. Just something that'll have a couple new features, but not a ton of new features, and bug fixes probably rolled up. This is just based on what we've gotten from sources. Microsoft hasn't said anything about Blue, and none of this is official. So
they've not even used the word Blue. This didn't come from Microsoft. This Blue thing.
No, it came. When I found out about it in August, it was because Stephen Chapman, who does some things on ZDNet with us and who's a very good Windows watcher as well, he had found some people's resumes on LinkedIn that mentioned Blue. And so we started looking around like, what is Blue? And then we started getting tips on it once we started asking around a little bit.
Wow. That's actually pretty funny. It was in the resume.
In the resume. Yeah.
It's amazing how often that happens, isn't it, though?
I know.
LinkedIn thing.
That's how you find out stuff these days.
Yeah.
Read resumes. What else? Let me slide over. Let me slide over to the left.
I didn't intend to script your entire computing.
It's not going to sleep anymore. Anyway, that's good. That's good. Windows Phone 7.8. This was the fix for those who'd bought Windows 7 phones and couldn't run Windows 8.
Yep.
Where is it?
It's a good question. One gets the idea they just started working on it.
Oh, let's do Windows.
Oh, they expected us to actually do that.
We mentioned that, didn't we? Do you? I mean, it's not a whole lot of Windows 7 Phone 7 users.
Well, there are millions of them.
Millions?
Right? I mean,
wow.
Several millions, absolutely.
Is it that many? Wow.
Yeah, sure.
How many of them do you think are going to? Well, I guess it's too early to go to Windows Phone 8. They'd have to, that'd be soon to buy a new phone.
Yeah, I can tell you from using, and Mary Jo, I'm curious what you think about this statement, but using Windows Phone 8 for the past month or so, I mean, honestly, it's the start screen, right? I mean,
it's all about the start screen. Yeah,
there's a couple of little nice things in there that are outside of the start screen, obviously, but I mean, honestly, I think the big deal from a usage standpoint is the start screen.
And you get that with 7A, right?
That's right, and so actually, it's a pretty big deal. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have my brand new, as of this past weekend.
Look, it's got Verizon red tiles on it.
Yeah, it's the red one, but you could change
that. It's Verizon, right? Too. I've got my phone in Verizon now. My HTC.
Look how big that looks.
And it's not that big.
It just
looks.
I
just have small hands.
Oh, that's it. All right. That's the 920?
No, this is This is the HTC 8X.
That's the 8X.
It's California blue with the Verizon red tiles, and I've been using it on Verizon since about a week or so, and it's been great.
Oh, LTE on Verizon is so spectacular.
Yeah, it's been awesome, and no bad call quality.
Yeah.
I had a couple data transfer kind of issues, but those seem to have kind of leveled them. Yeah, everything seems good, and so. I'm pretty happy. But
battery life?
Battery life, good. Like a day and a half of battery life. Yep.
We're going to do a head-to-head because, Alex Gumpel, our resident tile guy, has a 920.
Is that his title now?
Mr. Tiles.
Head of Tiles.
Head of Tiles has a 920, which is, I like it. It's a little big, as Walt Mossberg even pointed out, a little big and thick.
Yeah, big and heavy.
Heavy. But, if you want a solid phone, it's solid. But he's
kill someone with that thing. I mean, it's self-defense wise. It's the ultimate.
But
phone.
He's purchasing an 8X for himself, so we're going to do a head-to-head. He's going to have them both side by side and give a. Because I said we don't need a review of Windows Phone 8. What we'd like is which Windows Phone should I buy?
There's not a heck of a lot to say about Windows Phone 8. I mean, it's
right. Well, we know it now.
I mean, obviously Microsoft talks a lot about the architecture aspects of it. It's based on Windows 8 and everything, and sure. But, if you've been using Windows Phone, it's the next version of Windows Phone. It looks and works really the same. So
I find that interesting that you say that the big difference you notice is the front page.
It is. It's a start screen. Yeah.
What were those features? Remember, they didn't want the SDK to come out because they didn't want any of those special.
Those don't exist, Leo.
Okay,
there were no
checking.
No. There are some other. I mean, obviously, there's a parental controls thing in there, which is really nice, and it's for those situations we've all been in with kids where you're in a restaurant and the kids are getting antsy and you want to keep eating and here's my phone, play a game, and it puts them into this mode where they can't affect any of your data or do anything wrong with your phone, and that's
nice.
Exactly what you would want.
That's nice.
So there's stuff like that. There is more stuff to Windows Phone 8, of course. But honestly, the thing that impacts me the most by far, like 90% plus, is that start screen. It is way more efficient to be able to really customize those things exactly the way you want. I was actually going to do a joke, a screenshot. I should still do this, actually. I've spent the past several years complaining about the lameness of the grid of icons that you get on an iPhone. And it's actually possible to change all of the tiles on Windows Phone to be small squares, which would be a grid, would be a grid of, it would still be slightly better than an iPhone because there's still a small element of liveness to them, if you will. But it would look a lot like an iPhone, I think.
I think the iPhone is starting to look dated when you compare it to. I think that I love the tiled. Like I said, even on the Surface RT, I really like that liveliness of it, and you get information from it. And I think it's nice on a phone. I think it is nice. So 7.8, we will get that. At some point. And
later than expected.
Yeah,
early 2013.
Little disappointed.
Yeah.
How
Unless
about
you buy a new phone. There's some new phones that are going to have it before that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's new low-cost phones, largely outside of the U.S., but not exclusively outside of the U.S., that are going to ship with that as the operating system starting now, I guess. Or maybe already have. I'm not sure.
Okay. What about the random reboots we've been hearing about on the Windows Phone 8? Is that I think I heard they were shipping that already, right? The patch for that? No?
December.
No?
Yeah, it's December. December the patch is going to come.
I'm positive I've experienced this.
Well, I have.
I did it. I had it once on the HTC 8X loaner I had on AT&T. One day it just randomly rebooted itself.
It happened to me at the launch event that day, and I think once since, but it literally, because you're unpeeling it, you're so excited, and it rebooted in my hands, and I thought that's a rough start. But actually, it's been fine for the most part ever since. I believe it's only happened once since then, so I'm not really sure if that qualifies. But
yeah, when I had it happen, I had people asking me, "Have you uninstalled the Skype preview for Windows Phone 8 because that might fix it?" So I did uninstall it, and it never happened again. But I can't say there is a correlation for sure.
Right.
Yep.
How interesting.
But they will be fixing that.
They say next month, though.
Mm-hmm.
And how are the sales on Windows Phone? Do we know?
They're Amazon-esque. They're 4 times of some number they never released from last year. So
it's better and better. They get better and better. 400%.
Yep.
You mentioned the word scroogled.
Scroogled.
I'm not sure what I really think about this scroogled campaign.
I think it's excellent, but not for the reason that people would think. I think a lot of people see my glee and excitement over this, and they assume that Paul is some partisan Microsoft goon, and of course he likes it because
aren't they
Microsoft.
Doing the same thing? Isn't Bing just as scroogled as Google?
That's what I've seen people say that, but I think it's a fact that Google has a shopping site that used to not be all paid advertisements, and now they have a shopping site that is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point.
But the claim was that the search is leaking into the search results.
Well, I think the claim was specifically about Google shopping.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Because it is absolutely a fact that anyone would go to that site and not understand they were looking at ads. I mean, it looks like a legitimate shopping site, and it's not.
Well, and she looks so unhappy.
Her face is awesome. That is the most perfect, priceless.
In the beginning, Google preached. I'm reading from the micro. This is by the way, it's a scroogled.com, which doesn't necessarily. I mean, the only reason you know it was Microsoft is because there's a Metro style arrow dinging on the bottom, and it says to try Bing.
Your homepage.
Yeah. In the beginning, Google preached, "Don't be evil," but that changed on May 31st, 2012. That's when Google Shopping announced a new initiative. Simply put, all of their shopping results are now paid ads.
A day that will live in infamy.
Well, nobody really used Google Shopping, so okay. I don't know. Did you use it for for comparison?
No, I don't
shopping?
use any of this stuff. I just think it's funny. And by the way, just to finish the thought from earlier, as I've said before in this podcast, any time that these big companies go at each other, I refer to it as like Godzilla versus King Kong in one of those awesome Japanese movies.
Yeah, and
I live for this stuff.
We're the little people running around between their feet trying not to get squished.
Yeah, the reason this is excellent is not because it's Microsoft. It's because it's just excellent. It's so excellent that these big companies would actually be this aggressive complaining about the other, I think it's excellent. And so obviously Google is welcome to try their hand at something like this against Microsoft. That would be excellent as well. I just think I just enjoy this kind of thing.
Yeah. Google Shopping is not the same as Bing, though. I mean, does Bing have shopping results?
Bing has shopping results in Bing search results, right?
So they're saying instead of using Google's Shopper, use Bing. Yeah.
It's another part of the campaign to switch from Google to Bing. Right. I mean, this is basically what it is.
Right.
And so a couple people, I think Harry McCracken brought this up. He said, I actually am not mad that Google has paid search results because if you try some of these same searches on Bing, you kind of wish they had policed the search results a little more because you get some kind of shady results. It's though Microsoft's not extracting payment from people for the search results, but he kind of wished they were, or at least had a higher bar.
Well, at least if somebody paid for it, they'd have some commitment to it. Yeah, exactly.
And you'd have more sites show up that were actually relevant and not gaming the system. That was his take. I have to admit, I kind of ignore these campaigns when they come out because you can always make a case for both sides.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Scroogled.
But it's a
Paul
good.
said
Well, the best thing is the word, right?
I've been scroogled. I just think it's so funny.
That's really
Here's
why
this
works.
Excellent. I'm gonna be at some random Microsoft event 2 years from now, and someone on stage is going to be saying something, and then when she pauses, I'm going to say "scroogled."
Well, we'll know who that came from. Yeah. All right, you finally got it. You finally did it. Squirrel. And this is a little note for business buyers, something you might want to be aware of from, I presume, from Mary Jo Foley.
Yeah. So December 1st, which is coming up very quickly.
Yeah.
Microsoft's going to be raising some prices
Friday.
on some of their enterprise products. Yeah. And so what they're raising prices on are two categories of things. One is they're raising prices on the 2013 versions of some of the Office servers. So SharePoint 2013 is going to be quite a bit more expensive than the older version of SharePoint, SharePoint 2012. In fact, about 40% more expensive. And yes, there are a lot of new bells and whistles in SharePoint 2013, the on-premises version of SharePoint, but that's a pretty hefty price increase. The other one that's getting even a bigger price increase is Lync 2013. One of my contacts said the price increase on that is 400%. And I've asked Microsoft about this, and I haven't gotten them to comment. So I can't totally verify for you that it's 400%, but it does seem like it's a sizable increase. So you might want to make sure all your licensing bells and whistles are in order before December 1st, if you haven't already. Because if you're under software assurance, you're not going to be affected by this. You're going to be able to carry your price over longer that you're currently paying so that you can be kind of grandfathered in for the new versions. The other one that's rising is the price of user client access licenses going up 15% across the board.
Ooh, that's
so that's
a big
also going to
hike.
affect a lot of people. Yeah.
That's a huge hike. Yeah.
Yeah. So you might want to check in with your reseller if you go through resellers and see if there's anything you can do to avoid some of these price hikes that are coming if you haven't already. I've talked to a few resellers this week who said they've been very busy with people trying to get in before the gate comes down.
Huh. Last chance Friday. Oh,
Yep.
it went to sleep again. Darn it. We're going to take a break and come back with your picks of the week. We got a software pick, a tip, enterprise pick, and yes, a code name of the week. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. There's also, is this something you instituted because of IAS? Because he's kind of a lush.
While you were gone.
The beer pick of the week. Is this one of your beers?
No.
No.
But we've tried it a couple weeks in a row, and I've been getting a lot of tweets saying, keep doing beer pick of the week. So if
I
you
don't
want us-
mind that. We're not encouraging drinking. Certainly, if you're under 21, you should stay away from the stuff. I love it when they have the ads, you know, with heavy consumption of alcohol. It's like this. I'll get a little bottle of whiskey. Remember, kids, drink responsibly. Drink responsibly.
Do as I say, not as I
That's
do.
right. Buy more booze, but drink responsibly. We will continue in just a moment. But
They're
first,
like licenses, Leo. You don't have to use them. You just have to buy them.
yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I should take this out of the picture now because I'm about to do a Ford ad. Do not. Well, you know, one of the things that's kind of cool about the way Ford is treating its vehicles is as cars get smarter and smarter, they're doing more and more to help drivers be better drivers. Which does not mean, of course, you should drink and drive, but it does mean that you're not going to appear like you've been drinking the next time you drive. If you use the fabulous, this is my next Ford, by the way. I've gone on record. 2013 Fusion. I'm really interested in the plug-in hybrid version of this. I decided I want to be like Mary Jo Foley, earth conscious, and I want to leave a little footprint. And this is really a sweet vehicle. Whoops, that's Paul Thurrott. He's also a sweet vehicle, but not the one. Not the one I was talking about. Take him for a ride, boys and girls. I'm talking.
Just do so responsibly.
Just do it responsibly. I'm talking about the Ford Fusion 2013, the plug-in hybrid, which is cool and has some really sweet technology. Actually, you don't have to get the plug-in hybrid to get this, but it is available in all 2013 Fusions. Two really good examples of technologies that take this platform that they're building and turn it into something really helpful for a driver. For instance, the new Fusion, you can get there's a camera. You monitor, they mount a camera, a forward-facing camera. You don't even see it. on the car that looks at one thing and one thing only: lanes, the lines of the lanes, and then determines if you're staying on course. It's called the lane keeping system, and it's just really kind of cool. Day or night, the alert will warn you by vibrating the steering wheel if you start to veer out of the lane, mimicking those rumble strips, that many highways have. We have them here in California. They call them bots, dots. It goes brrrr. And then if you continue to veer, the lane keeping aid actively applies steering torque to help you direct your vehicle back into the lane. Turn on the blinker, no problem. That disables it. It says, "Oh, you mean to turn." Very cool. There's also, you got to go to Ford.com/technology, all the different technologies that are available, like the Smart Gauge with the Eco Guide cluster, the Bliss system with cross-traffic alert, the rear view camera, and this I love, the adaptive cruise control. So with adaptive cruise control, just like a normal cruise control, but there's radar in the front of the vehicle that when it senses traffic slowing, slows your vehicle down. So instead of setting a speed, you set a preset distance. When the traffic's cleared, the vehicle resumes. There's also, and you can see it if you're watching the video on the screen right now, if you get too close to a vehicle ahead of you, a heads-up display on the windshield flashes red lights. It simulates brake lights on the windshield, telling you, hey, you're getting too close. If you don't react in time, the brakes pre-charge and increase brake assist sensitivity, so that when you do finally tap the brake, it goes, yeah, I know. I've been waiting for you. Finally, you're paying attention now, aren't you? I think this is just coolness. Ford.com/technology, or better yet, go drive one at a Ford dealer near you. Go further and afford the 2013 Ford Fusion. I cannot wait. The one I want, the plug-in hybrid, I think is 2 months out. 1 or 2 months out. I cannot wait to get it. I'm so excited. I'm already getting the plug in my garage. I don't care if the car's not there. I'm getting the plug. All right. Went to sleep again. Let us wake up the computer and see what is our tip of the week from Mr. Paul Thurrott.
I think you know Brian Hogg, right?
I
Moss
do.
Puppet.
He's the guy who did the puppet for our last Apple announcement. He did a Tim Cook puppet.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because we couldn't stream the announcement, so we just puppet showed it.
He wrote that's great, by the way.
I know.
He wrote a mystery novel starring his Moss Puppet character.
Oh, really?
And it's pretty excellent, actually. And I should mention that it's not fair to say one of the reasons I think it's excellent is because I'm in it, but I am in it.
Are you? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and actually a lot of tech bloggers are in it. Some of them come off as better than others, as I note in the notes here. But it's a great book. And I have to say, it's only available on the Kindle, I believe. I laughed out loud easily a dozen times or more reading this. It's really cheap. I'm
happy for you.
So it'd be kind of a neat way to support the guy. He's just a really funny, smart guy. And
I love Brian.
Yeah, it's great. You're in it too, actually, briefly. The story involves a tech company that is introducing a miracle new phone, and all of the tech bloggers show up, and mystery ensues. So I don't want to ruin it.
Oh,
but,
it sounds good. I like it.
Yeah. So it's good stuff.
Good for you, Brian Hogg. $2.99.
Yep.
Also, Brian Hogg. By Brian Hogg. I'm sorry. Apologies by God. Book 1.
Yep.
Shooting Wolves from a Helicopter, an autobiography of Sarah Palin, America's greatest president. And Flash MX.
I love he's like hilarious books. And then it's Flash MX 2040.
Which I think he actually did write.
Which is also a comedy.
Is it? Yes. I'm laughing right now. This is great. All right. Yeah, Walt Moss Puppet, A Phone to Die For. It's on the Kindle. Great pick.
Yeah. That's
the tip of the week. But how about a software pick for us here?
Software pick, this is in keeping with what I've been doing lately with these software picks. It's kind of an oldie but a goodie. It's Metro Twit, and I'd used this as a pick some time ago. I'd have to look it up.
Yep.
I, in my zeal, if you will, to use less and less software, I had gone to using Twitter on the web, which works okay.
Which is what Twitter wants you to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Metro Twit is about 1 million times better than using Twit.
Absolutely.
So I'm back to using Metro Twit, and there's a version for the PC desktop, which is the one I prefer and use, and then there's also a version for Windows 8, a Metro style app. So if Windows RT tablet, I assume it works there as well. It is just the absolute best Twitter client on earth. It just is, and I'm embarrassed that I didn't use it. Well, I didn't, and so I'm back, and I think you should use it too.
Everybody should be using. Actually, I use Tweetro. Do you like that better than Tweetro?
I could not care less about Tweetro. No, I haven't used it. I just use Metro Twit. That's
Okay. There's actually a couple of good.
Oh no, I'm sure there are.
Twitters. Metro Twit and Tweetro.
The one thing I'll say about Metro Twit though is it is constantly updated.
Yeah.
This thing is they work on this actively. So
yeah, that's important.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And if you've been,
I really want them to fix. I want them to fix the Windows version.
What's wrong?
Is it crash?
I'm loving Metro Twit on Windows 8.
Yeah.
You're not loving Metro Twit on Windows 8. Why? What happens?
No, it's nowhere as good as Windows 7, but they know and they're working on it. I've talked to Long Zhang and his guys about this, and there's just a lot of little things that you don't have on the Windows 7 version that they're going to bring to 8, and they've said they've been trying to get.
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean the Metro app? You're talking about the Metro app? Oh, yes, of course. Right, but the Windows 7 version works in Windows 8 as well.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yep.
I'm completely confused. But don't worry, because
don't be confused. We call them Windows 8 apps now. It completely makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you're confused. It's so obvious.
It's so easy.
It's just seamless and fast and fluid.
There's more about WAD. Mary Jo has the story.
Yes. So, Enterprise Pick of the Week this has been the Enterprise Pick of the Week a couple times.
Over and over.
Over and over. Can't get enough of WAD.
We just like saying it.
Windows Azure Active Directory. Windows Azure Active Directory this week got a couple new features. And Microsoft did this announcement because it's a big week for Amazon this week. They're having their big conference out in Las Vegas. So Microsoft announced that you can now federate identities across Windows Azure Active Directory and plain old Active Directory. And you can do this through the Windows Azure Management Portal. So you can have single sign-on even through the Azure Management Portal. So for people who've been using both the on-prem directory service and the cloud one, this has been the #1 requested feature, that you could use your portal and have this all work together as a single sign-on environment. And so now you do, as of this week. That's why WAD is picked.
If they call Windows Azure Active Directory WAD, do they call plain old Active Directory POD? I made Paul snort.
Please say yes. Please say yes.
I made my day. You made my day. All right, moving on. Code name of the week.
Code name pick of the week is Apollo Plus. And this is a code name I have not heard myself. The Verge found this code name. They say this is the version of the Windows Phone operating system that's going to follow on Apollo, which is Windows Phone 8. So they're saying there's going to be a fairly minor update to the Windows Phone OS that Microsoft's going to talk about at the Mobile World Congress in February of next year. We don't know when it's going to be out, but it sounds to me kind of the equivalent of Tango. When Microsoft started talking about Tango, and everyone's like, "What's Tango?" It's like some kind of minor update, but we're not really going to talk about it, and we're not even going to use the code name. So I think that is what Apollo Plus is. With the one piece of information that's interesting to people, that's also in the Verge report, saying that Apollo Plus may add VPN support into the Windows Phone operating system. If they do that, they're going to make a lot of business users very happy, because I've had a lot of business users say to me, I like Windows Phone a lot, can't use it because it doesn't have VPN. And I don't know if that's just a checkbox item, like they say they can't do it, or if they have a real need for it. But that is one of the rumored features that supposedly is in this Apollo Plus update for the phone.
Cool. And it's got a good code name, too. Apollo Plus. Sounds like, isn't that Rocky fought him in Rocky 7? No, not that Apollo Plus. Okay. And finally, the long-awaited beer pick of the week.
Beer pick of the week also goes with the Apollo code name.
Aren't you clever?
Aren't I clever?
You're clever.
Hill Farmstead Apollo. I don't know if anybody's had this beer. It's been in New York quite a bit on tap, but it's from Hill Farmstead Brewing in Greensboro, Vermont. It's a single hop pale ale. Very delicious.
single hop pale ale, and it's got an amazing rating of 91 on ratebeer.com. I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Yeah, if anybody out there, I shouldn't say this so broadly, but I'm going to just throw caution to the wind. Anybody out there with a Windows phone who's got the Beer app installed, I'm trying to ask some people on there. That's the Untapped the version of the Untapped app, but for Windows Phone.
All right, wait a minute. I got to install it.
It's called Beer.
It is called Beer. It's a really good app.
Is it in the? It's not in the RT store, unfortunately. It's only on the phone.
No, it's in the Windows Phone store. And yeah, you can go on there. It's like a social beer app where you can say what you've been drinking and where you've been drinking it if you want to check in on Foursquare and get your friends
beer app.
Chat with you about the beers that you're drinking. So it's kind of cool.
There's a beer. They have a beer in. Is it Brisbane? I think it's in Brisbane, called XXXX, and the joke is that's because they couldn't spell beer.
That's amazing. That's how I sign my name on legal documents.
Oh, those Aussies. Hey, you should. But Mary Jo, have you been to Australia?
I have not.
Oh, they love their beer. It's like beer heaven.
Yeah.
Well, go to Fort Collins first.
Fort Collins is beer heaven?
Colorado. Oh my God, yeah.
It's the water.
It really is. It really is. I'm installing this beer thing now.
I can tell. Paul's been a little distracted.
Yeah.
We do the show 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time every Thursday. We talk about Windows here with Mary Jo Foley from ZDNet, all about Microsoft.com. Paul Thurrott of the Windows Super Site. That's winsupersite.com. Paul's also the author of a great many books, including the latest, most recent Windows Phone Secrets and Windows 8 Secrets. I'm sorry, that is the most recent, is Windows 8 Secrets. Available in better bookstores everywhere. So if you have Windows Phone or Windows 8, you need it. Both of them. Is Fort Collins the home of Fat Tire?
Yes. Well, it's near there. Is that in Fort Collins?
Yeah,
I do like Fat Tire.
Me too.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff out there. New Belgium, Avery,
New Belgium.
many more.
I'm a fan of Belgian beer. That's my favorite. So I presume that's a style.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm telling you, better Belgian beer than in Belgium.
Better than in Belgium? Ooh, them's fighting
We're going
words.
to have some mad listeners.
You're going to have some Flemish people at your door.
Well, take it, you second-class citizens of the world.
Some strange language. No.
Well, I'll be there next summer. You can take it up with me personally.
Oh, you're going to Belgium. How fun.
I will go to.
So is Sarah Lane.
Netherlands, so.
Sarah Lane's going to be taking she's going to Paris for Le Web, and I guess she's taking a little trip over to Brussels because it's a quick train ride.
Got to go to Delirium Tremens, or whatever that place is called.
That's a good name for a bar.
A good name for a beer, which is an excellent
They have a beer called the DTs. Wow.
It's got an elephant on it, just like Hadoop.
My friends, thank you. It's great to see you. I'm glad to be back. And we will see you next week right here on Windows Weekly.